Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today for Girls Frontline 2, we're going to be taking a look at another tier list. This is one I've not actually covered on the channel before. The two main ones that I cover are Pride Wins, as well as Sephi's website, Loot and Waifus, that's created by his community. So this one's actually done by CN, and I believe the last time I really seen it was prior to Global's launch, because it was kind of the main one we had to get an idea of what characters we wanted to pull for launch. But I did notice on Reddit someone had posted that it had been updated for Florence that had just come out in CN, or came out about a week ago. And so I thought we'd just kind of take a look at it and see on their opinions, because I did notice that they have different thoughts than Pridewin as well as Sephi, at least in their locations. I mean, I can't read anything here. They have a whole YouTube video where he explains it, but it's all in Chinese, so I don't understand anything they're saying. But we can kind of get the idea based on where they're placing them. Now, they do have one that's kind of like the main one that works similar to the Pridewin one. It does include like minor dupes like Springfield V1, Vector V1 when it places them on here. But they also have a tier list for max dupes for my whales out there, similar to me, who are willing to invest heavily in specific characters. Not all of them. Like if you're a super Leviathan whale, you're going to max everyone out. I got a couple of those in my platoon. But on here, it actually it has a tier list for all the characters V6. So if you're kind of wanting to V6 somebody, and you're really hyper saving to heavily invest in someone or a specific team, this will be actually a good tier list to look at for that. I really haven't seen that with the other ones. I know Sephi's website takes it into consideration on their dupes and their value, but it doesn't compare them specifically on the tier list. It's an overall on that one. So we'll take a look at that one. And then it also kind of showcases some of the teams as well. So the first thing we'll look at here is going to be, this is the generic tier list similar to Pridewin, where it's putting them just at their generic, like good value investment. So there's actually a lot more that are viewed as V1s here than on Pridewin's, because a lot of the units in this game have very good V1s. I mean, it's an incentive to get people to spend, of course. So a lot of them are rated on the V1s here. So just know that, and you can take it into consideration when you look at it. There's also many with like higher dupes, like QJ, but she's a standard unit, so you might as well. So looking at this, their tier 0 units are going to be QJ, Nikita, Tololo, and Springfield. Springfield, absolutely, she's tier 1, or T0, sorry, on every single tier list. Even at, I mean, V0, she's still good, but her V1 is so good, everybody includes her V1. It's the most, like, the best of the best when it comes to V1s is Springfield herself, and her V1 helps Tololo elevate to, I would even say, above T0 in certain circumstances, because Tololo's quite good on her own, even without Springfield with her expansion key. Just Springfield elevates her even more, being able to go 3 times a turn, plus Springfield has superior buffs to everyone else, as well as heals, which are absolutely needed now if you're using Florence in your teams. So it makes sense for her, Tololo, and Nikita. Nikita's taken into consideration her V1 here. Pridewin's does not, I believe. And I think they have Nikita on tier 1. She may be tier 0. I know Sephi has her down at tier 1, but the only people Sephi has in tier 0 on his website is Klukai and Springfield. This is actually, this tier list does not have Klukai at T0, but it is only consideration. I don't know why, but they're taking into consideration a V1 Klukai in this tier list, which, I mean, Klukai is, to me, tier 0 at generic content with how quickly she can clear it, how great she is at AOE, but that's pretty much it, which, to me, downgrades her a little bit because anyone can do the generic content currently. So, I mean, it makes sense if you're going to not have her dupes, that she's not the best of the best, which makes sense. And you kind of have the same thing. You have Leva down here. Leva's really, really good, but overall, nobody can beat the Hydro team, as you can see here. I mean, you have Laney. Like, they have all the big DPS units here. So Leva, Klukai, Laney, Macchiato, Belka, Diane, Andrus. They have Vector V1 being down here. I mean, one of the things that makes QJ so good is Vector as well. She elevates QJ. But I guess I have Vector V1 and tier 1. I kind of disagree with that one for sure. You have Lena, Yuhi V1 at tier 1. That one, I mean, she's really good with the physical team, but that's about it there. And then they have Florence V0 taken into consideration here, which they have her elevated here, which I do think that's one area. I think Florence was, like, when I took into Sephi's tier list, I thought Florence, yeah, he has her at tier 2, but I kind of think of her as like a top of tier 2 or bottom of tier 1, just in general. It's primarily because Hydro team is so good without her, you don't really need it. But when you're going that mono Hydro team, she's absolutely amazing in that team. It just so happens to be currently you can just pull off not having her and pull a Klukai and a Peridia in that team, and it does more damage. But other than that, she's great. I do like what they have here. I mean, they put like a majority of the units in tier 1. I think it's a little overwhelming here because now I didn't even see it on the second row here. And I don't know if this makes a difference that they're on the bottom of the tier 1 on this list, but they have Robella, Sharkri, Faye, Zhaohui, Ulrid, Sabrina, Pari, Suomi, and Cinerisi. I mean, they pretty much have all your standard teams units here. So the units that kind of fit into a team currently are here. So makes sense to a certain extent, but it's a little overwhelming on the tier 1s here. But I can see where they're coming from on this, because right now, if you want to look at all the current teams, these are the ones in it. And then when you go to tier 2, these are the ones that are not currently like part of one of the main teams that you're building. You have Jianzhu. Makes sense. I mean, you need, and they're only taking her into consideration her V1. She absolutely wants her V3, and if you can, her V6 to be really good. You got Mosin Nagant. Yeah, I mean, they're taking into consideration V0 Mosin Nagant here. Absolutely trash. I put her even almost in tier, I mean, well, okay, looking at their tier 3s. Tier 2 makes sense. I mean, if you want to heavily invest in her, she's going to get better, which will look, there's another tier list that takes into consideration V6s. Veple makes sense. Chawa, at V0, yeah, it's kind of tricky. I mean, you're absolutely going to want to put her in the burn team, because Chawa I would put in the burn team over Pari. But I'd kind of have to see. I don't know what the reasoning is here. I'll have to look at their teams. They also list, like, the main teams down below, which we'll look at here in a second. Mishti makes sense currently. Mishti's absolutely going to move up. Mishti's fallen off, and that's why I'm kind of thinking they're taking into consideration the current main teams people are building when it comes to your tier 1s. Because right now, Mishti is not being used with Klukai and Peridia, because the main teams you're pairing them with have at least 3 units in it. For example, for Hydro, you're using Springfield, Tololo, Nikita, then Klukai and Peridia. And then any other teams, you take like 3 of them. So if you want to mix in a Klukai Peridia with the burn team, you're taking QJ, Sharkri, Vector. And then you're putting Klukai and Peridia in there. So you don't have room for Mishti currently. Mishti is going to move up as soon as we get our next big corrosion unit. Because hopefully the next big corrosion unit's decent enough that you can start forming a mono corrosion team. It doesn't have to be crazy, because Klukai is already really good, especially if you have investment into her. But we'll just kind of have to see what we get with the next corrosion unit. Because I know Mika is a little scared to give any more power to Klukai for those that have heavily invested in her. So I suspect the next support / sustain for corrosion is not going to be like a Springfield level. They're going to probably be a bottom of tier 1 level at best, but we'll kind of have to see there. And there's our rumors on who that unit's going to be, and they're going to be a shotgun unit. But I mean, none of that's guaranteed, so I don't even want to speak on this at that point. But makes sense. Mishti will move up. She's just currently not in use in a team at this point. I don't know why Dush is. I mean, Dush is currently used in the ice team at this point. I'll kind of see why. I mean, you don't really need her right now. You can kind of build a team around ice without her, but they have her down here, and they have her V1 taken into consideration. And then pretty much after that, you have Senia, who's the second best of the SRs, just below Sharkri. You don't really need her anymore if you invest in Cinerisi. But if a lot of people are skipping Cinerisi, she kind of fills that void on the burn team. And then you have all the other SR units, which makes sense. And then Papasha, which is, of course, the free unit. She's the worst of the group. Once we really have our teams fully built, she's going to be just completely dropped out of most people's teams, even when we max dupe her. But that's that first tier list. Look at their V6 tier list. So if you're willing to spend decently, and want to push a unit up to V6, this is the tier list for you to look at here. And I will have a link for this in the description. And so all of the ones up here kind of make sense, although there's some caveats I can put onto it. T0 is going to be the most important one, because if you care about meta and you're willing to only spend so much money on getting a V6, this is the one you want to look at. You have Klukai, my absolute favorite in the game. I would say not the best V6 to get of the group. She's just my favorite unit. She feels really good to play at V6. But I feel like there's better options for those that really want to get the best V6, if you're only going to get like one, for example. You have Springfield on T0, absolutely hands down the best V6 to get in the game currently of all the units on CN. Pairs super well with Tololo. The Hydro team is absolutely broken. And she actually does extremely good damage, comparable damage at V6. So that just elevates the overall team damage of Hydro, especially when you get Nikita. And and being a support, she has more longevity. Because eventually, a year or two from now, we're eventually going to have more than enough teams to build monos of the elements. And you might start seeing slight power creep, or maybe not even power creep, but adjustments into the direction of different teams, where they don't directly power creep another unit, but they have a different function. And Springfield's going to fit better into those Hydro teams than, say, bringing Tololo. Eventually, Tololo, while she's really good, could eventually fall off when we start seeing new functions introduced. And so Springfield will have more longevity in that point because she's a support unit. So I like that one. The same thing with Yuhi. Yuhi is absolutely great. If you really like Yuhi, her V6 is great. If you're just not wanting to go into Springfield, that's the only thing that really makes investing in the Yuhi not make sense, is because Springfield's the better one to invest in. But if you really like Yuhi, she is a good one, the V6. Very universal in the teams she can go in. Right now fits really well on the electric on the CN side. Shawa, V6. Her V6 is very good. One problem with that, and she's like one of the ones that I think is a really good V6, but a very easy not invest in her V6. Let one of your Leviathan whales in your platoon invest in your V6, if you have anyone that does. Reason being, you're never going to be able to bring your entire team in the platoon boss battle. And what I mean by that is you always have to borrow a unit. Even the whales have to borrow somebody's unit. You can't bring 5 of your own units. You have to borrow one. And Chawa, in the burn team, Chawa is the easiest one. You get one person that gets the V6 Chawa, everybody can easily invest and get at least a V3 QJ. You got Sharkery, who everybody's going to have V6 by that point. You have Vector. All you really need is V1 for Vector. Absolutely everybody, most people would advise to get that very big V1 to get. And right there's kind of your main core of the burn team. Then you kind of have Senia or Cinerisi that kind of fill the sustain role. And then the borrow unit, which is the most expensive of that group, that has the most, like the dupes are the most valuable, is Chawa's. And so while I think it's really good, I think she's one of the best borrow units from a Leviathan, not a good you build your team around it units. So that's why I don't really see hers as being high value. I mean, it makes sense being this high in the tier list at V6. Just one I would not invest in it is if you're a small whale or a dolphin. Leva is a really good one. If you want to invest heavily into the electric team, Leva's a good one to do it in. She's kind of the electric's Klukai. And yeah, definitely a great one. I mean, to me personally though, on the electric team currently, I mean, we don't have any of them on global right now, but I could see, because we don't know what we're going to get on that point. We know we're going to have Yuhi rerun in 4 banners. And so I'd rather get a V1 Leva and then a V6 Yuhi versus a V6 Leva and like a V1 Yuhi or somebody else that you're going to fill the support role for. But that's currently on CN. We have no clue what their next big electric unit could be. Now, they've already got a lot of electric units, so I doubt we're getting a new one anytime soon. But I know eventually Yuhi will fall off from the meta of the electric team. And so Leva could very well be the better investment if you really like the electric team and you really like Leva. But I think currently Yuhi for electric's the better one to go with. You have Nikita. I wouldn't invest in Nikita's until you max out Springfield's. but then she's also got really good damaging dupes as well. I've already mentioned Klukai. I have V6 Klukai. I just love her. Favorite character in the game. Really good single target AoE damage. But she is just a damage dealer in that aspect. So eventually, I say eventually, I'm thinking like 2 years from now, we'll probably have like way more units kind of complements the teams, and supports are going to hold their value over DPS just in general. And that's like all gacha games. Robella, another big support. I mean, right now, the biggest negative she has is Ice Team just kind of weak. Other than that, I really like Robella in her support role. But overall, Ice is one of the weaker of the elements. But I could see her value going up in the future. So I kind of disagree with that one currently, but we'll kind of have to see. Tier 1, QJ, makes sense. I mean, QJ, like, they kind of don't have, besides Chawa, they don't really have any of the other burn units up here. I mean, Chawa's is just super good because of the infinite stacking on her buff. So it makes sense that QJ is going on here. Now, QJ is probably the best standard unit to max out. So she's the easiest of this group. You don't have to be a whale to max her out. So eventually you want to max her out. Now, first you want to make sure you at least get V2 to Lolo before you do that, so you can pair that with Springfield. But QJ is absolutely great. Macchiato is really good. She was one of my... now, I didn't invest into her as a V6, but she was a very big borrow unit in the platoon up until we got Klukai. Really, really good at V6. Fits well within the Ice team. If you wanted to invest heavily in the Ice team, though, it's kind of tough to I mean, see, that's where it's kind of tough here. Robella's going to have a longer value, but I think Macchiato's the better current investment if you want to go V6. Now, we've already had her rerun, so if you didn't like her and didn't want to invest in her at this point, then you're probably not going to. But I think Robella, the reason I put her above her, it makes sense, is that, I mean, I think she'll have a longer term investment than Macchiato, because Macchiato's is kind of a niche as well. With the 4 counterattacks, you need enemies or a boss that's going to be able to trigger all of them. So, really good, but more niche in that. Lainey, really good. But overall, like, if you're going to invest in physical, Yuhi all the way. So I can see why she's down here. Sharkery, absolutely great. Best SR unit in the game. Everybody's going to be able to get her V6. Absolutely great. Belk, for some reason, people have been telling me that a V6 Mosin Nagant beats... Now, I have not heavily looked into Belka's kit. I just know she is another one of the electric DPSs, but she's not kind of a core member of the electric team. And Mosin Nagant V4 through V6 is better than her, or not better than her, but can be comparable to her. But remember, everybody says she is actually better. Like, a V6 Mosin Nagant is better than a V6 Belka, from what I heard. I'm gonna... Well, I'll have to look into her kit, but I doubt that. Because, yeah, like, I haven't really heavily looked into hers. But everybody says they're comparable, and I do know she is not, like, the mandatory needed for the electric team. But tier 1 makes sense. I mean, she's one of the damage dealers for that. Diane, absolutely great with a lot of dupes. Just she's on the physical team, and it is kind of niche. A big thing, she has a lot of movement, and then after she does her attack, she can move back, and it makes it a lot easier to max out her stacks. I believe it's for the, like, crit rate and all that. It's been a while since I've looked at her kit. Overall, very good, just not very comparable to the others. And like I said, she's on the physical team, Yuhi. If you're wanting to invest in the physical team, Yuhi's the one you invest in, because Yuhi's going to make Diane more powerful, then Diane's dupes are going to make her powerful herself. Jahoy, considered one of the worst current units in the game, besides maybe Jianju at V0. But it's much like Dush in that she gets really, really good at V6. And like, if you absolutely V6'd her, she's going to be going right into your mono Hydro team. The problem I have with her V6 and why you wouldn't want to invest in hers is it's fairly obvious. You invest in Springfield first, then you invest in Nikita, and then I would say Florence, and then I'd say her. So you have to be a pretty big whale and really love the Hydro team, but you really, before you want to really think about investing in Jahoy's dupes, even though they're pretty good. Andress, absolutely great as well. Electric tank sustain unit. It's been a while since I've looked at her kit as well. I mean, I know she has the little summons. She just got her expansion key, but from what I understand, looking at it, it's nothing too significant for her, but she is absolutely great. A top tier unit and part of the core of the electric team. Like, if you're wanting to build the electric team, you do want a copy of her. You have Pari at V6. I don't really remember Pari's dupes very well. I remember the biggest thing I know with her is she's able to do a lot of attacks to trigger all of QJ's support actions, but I think you only really need V1 to really get the maximum value out of her. So I think V6 is just amping up her damage and making her have more value in the burn team currently. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they have pretty much they have like all the core units here. Like, they have everyone that's not tier 0 here except Ulrid and Papa Shah. I mean, in Vetplay down at tier 3. So it's kind of hard to read into it when they have everybody that's not tier 0 and tier 1 that's actually matters right now. You have Vector, Dush, Florence, and then Peridia. I mean, I'm not going to go through the rest of these because it's kind of just getting down to the wire here, because I've already gone long enough. But Vector's really good. You only really need her V1, and all your investment is... See, I mean, if you're wanting to heavily invest into something, I think she's just not worth the investment. After V1, I'd rather invest in another element's dupes over hers, like a Yuhi. But we have that. Dush is kind of the same thing as Jahoy. Really good dupes. But I'd rather invest in Robella or Macchiato over Dush in terms of meta. Florence has the same problem as all the Hydro. Springfield, Nikita, before you invest in her dupes. But they are really good. I really do like the dupes, and those are the ones I just looked at. It increases her damage, but you really don't need... You're going to amp up your damage way more with Nikita and Springfield's before you do with hers. Peridia's, she's a standard unit. Her V6 is where she's good, but she sucks all the way in between, so you're going to have to heavily invest in her and push her all the way to V6. And we'll kind of have to see what happens with the next big corrosion unit. Peridia's not going to drop off. She's always going to be great with a Klukai Mishti combo. We just have to see the next units in corrosion. But hopefully I'll get her to V6 from lost 50/50s over time. I'm just hoarding all my standard pulls right now because I don't feel like I need any of the V6s on any of the units. I have them all in good places right now. So hopefully she's going to get there. I think I have her at V2 right now. So slowly making it there. Jianju, really good V6 because she's kind of like a Macchiato, but she reacts to any action the enemy takes, not just an offensive action. She really wants her dupes, though. She sucks at V0. But at V6, she's good, but she is not a core of the electric team, I think, even at V6, because of how her kit functions. But you can slot her in there. She just fills the slot of either Mosin Nagant or Belka in the electric team if you have her max dupe and you really like her. Let's see. Faye, free unit. You're going to build the physical team and heavily invest into them. You can invest into her. She has I like all of her dupes overall. She just slowly gets stronger, does more damage as you invest into her. Great for the physical team. Sabrina, part of the mono hydro team now if you're building it, and you're not going to have, like, comparing it to Jahoy, I think they're comparable. Then you got Mishti. Mishti's kind of fallen off. As, like I said before, she doesn't really fit into the corrosion team right now because it's in hybrid teams with everyone. But she'll move back up. Cinerisi, Suumi, and then Lena. I mean, this is going a lot longer than I expected. But I think the one negative I'm seeing about this is tier 1's way overcrowded. I didn't expect to have to go through all of them in tier 1 to cover it. But then when you get to tier 2, Papa Shah makes sense. We're all going to get her V6 eventually. She's going to be dropped off once you have full teams and you don't need her. The biggest thing will be like units like Nikita, who has a summon, Lainey, who has a summon, and as we get other summons and we no longer need her to meet that condition for Gunsmoke bosses, she's going to be completely dropped out. Ulrid, they got to fix our the melee, man. Now, from what I can tell, the new what do you call it? EX mode is actually pretty good, because she fits the requirements of the very restrictive conditions. Now, like I was told within my comments, is EX mode is not a requirement, and there's no significant reward for it. Just a little thing that kind of a notch to say you've done it on the profile. But other than that, I mean, if you're wanting that challenge, it is something she is good at. But someone the V6, not worth it at all. And then you have Veple. She's the really bad 50-50 to lose to, which I think I got her at like V3 right now. So I'm going to get one of the worst V6s eventually in the future here. But that is the V6 tier list. And let's go ahead down and look at their teams now. So this is kind of going over Mono Hydro and some other kind of stuff here. Just kind of dealing with Floats. So these are the team comps they're talking about. And I think they had kind of translations here. So team suggestions, no V levels provided. So they're not taking into consideration, or they're not providing V levels for them. But some of them you can make some assumptions. Like the very tippity top one is our Mono Hydro. Absolutely is taking into consideration a V1 Springfield for sure. And a V2 Tololo. Because those two together are just absolutely crazy. You got Nikita for even more damage. Floats for the defense down and more buffs. And then it's between Sabrina and Xiaohui. Mono Hydro, great team right now. I feel like Xiaohui or Sabrina will eventually get replaced at some point. They're like the first to get replaced when we get our next Hydro team member in the future. Probably not anytime soon. But yeah, of course, they're the top team right now. This is kind of the weird one I've seen here. Here is our electric team. And right now it has Lena, Andrus, and Leva, which are kind of the core of the electric team. Now, they sneak and have Nemesis in here. And I'm wondering if they're kind of taking into consideration that units are going to be included in other teams. Like they're trying not to reuse the same units when they cover these teams. But it's kind of tricky because they do have another one right here, which includes the Hydro. But I think this is kind of your core electric team and then filler units currently. If you don't have like a Belka, Mosin Nagant heavily invested. So I think, isn't Nemesis put like defense down? I can't remember Nemesis's whole kit. So that can get you that debuff. And then you have your sustain, or well, another support with some sustain in it to kind of help with Andrus's sustain. Overall, not too bad there. I don't know why they don't take into consideration the other electric units, because I don't think I saw them anywhere else on here. But that's one they mentioned. Then you have like the other one. So you have your Mono Hydro, but then you have the other Hydro team. If you don't want to invest in Floats or get Floats, you still have the one that's been like the meta for a while now, which is Springfield, Tololo, Nikita, Peridia, Klukai. This is the team. Is kind of the reason Mishti's fallen off, because you can't fit Mishti into this team. Tololo and Nikita do more damage provided from Springfield than Mishti will amplify Peridia and Klukai. You already get the defense down, especially if you've heavily invested into Klukai, because this is one where you have a heavily invested Klukai for sure. So you're already getting the defense down from her, so you don't. Mishti's not providing enough to be valuable here, and that's why she's fallen off the tier list at this point. You have our standard burn team, UJ, Vector, Cinerisi, Sharkri, and Shawa. You have, of course you're going to see this in all the teams, you have the ice team. Another reason Mishti fell off, Klukai and Peridia among Dush, Robella, Macchiato. So that's the core ice team currently. And then it looks like the core physical team. Yuhi, Faye, Lainey, Peridia, Klukai. So Peridia, Klukai is still in a majority of the teams. They just slot in everywhere. But that is their current teams. They're saying like are the suggested teams, and I think they're kind of trying to. I think they have this team because they're kind of assuming that you're using your Cinerisi with the burn team here, and the Nemesis is just for that defense down because you're assumed to be putting your Klukai and Peridia in another team, and Yuhi is going into your physical team. So I think that's their assumption. You can still slot in, like, if you have a V3 Yuhi, she fits perfectly into this team. But it's kind of awkward on how they're doing it, because they don't mention dupes or any of that. So, but, I mean, these are kind of your typical standard teams right now, overall. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I thought I'd just go over this tier list real quick. Well, I say real quick. This was actually really long, because it's the first time going over it. I will cover it in the future. Just not take as long. Just take into consideration the newest characters. So like this one, I would have just discussed it, Floats, and where she fit in there. One negative I have with it is tier 1 is way too full on this. Really need more separation between tier 1 and tier 2. It's really hard to get relevant information. Tier 0 makes sense because you're like, these are your top units. It's a little full, but at least it covers, like, it's not too full, other than the damage dealers are a little bit, or the sentinels, basically. But Tier 1's not too bad. Tier 1's, or Tier 0's not too bad. Tier 1's way too bad. Move some of those down into Tier 2. But other than that, overall pretty good. But yeah, this is going to be my longest video of this one for sure. I will cover it in the future, just new units, like I said. But that's pretty much it. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.